All right, brother. Listen, so let's put a little bit of a recap on this last game and parlay that into this game. But based off of what you saw this last week and knowing that the NFC Championship should be a tougher opponent or at least a tougher game, it means more because this chance of the Super Bowl is on the line. Who needs to step it up this week in order for the 49ers to continue this path to number 6?
Well, my first answer I want to say is Kyle, but when I'm talking about players specifically,
you can say Kyle. I'm fine with that because I agree.
I think I'm gonna save him, and feel free if you want to use it. Go ahead and use it, but I'm gonna save it for our last topic because I think that's the more pertinent topic for Kyle. But I will say one thing that I've noticed, and I checked the numbers on it, is Nick Bosa, 2021, 15 and a half sacks, 2022, 18 and a half sacks. This season, 10 and a half sacks. And so that's the look, I know they had 22 pressures last week as a unit, the defensive line, which isn't bad, but they're not getting home. And this team is too talented. This pass rush is too talented, and Bosa makes way too much money not to be getting all the way there, not to be getting home, not to be notching actual sacks against our opponents. And they're going to have to do that. They didn't get any last week. They're going to have to do that. Not only for this Lions game, and golf is basically a statue. So this is the chance to do it. Now, they do have a good O-line, so that, does come into play. But they got to get home against the Lions. And if they want to win a Super Bowl, they're going to have to do it the following game in the Super Bowl. So Nick Bosa and this entire D-line, and I'm looking at Steve Wilks as well, they have to get together and figure out what they need to do to actually get home against quarterbacks and actually not sacks, because it's extremely important. That's what this team is built around. That's what this defense is built around. And when you're not getting home, that puts your corners in situations where you don't want them. And that's not the strength of this team anyways. The strength of this team is supposed to be the D-line, and that's what I want to see improve against the Lions.
Well, I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, this defensive line has to get pressure with 4. That's what this team is built around. And when you have this many players that are first-round draft picks,
right,
big-time free agents, players you traded for, there's no excuse. No excuse that they're not getting home. Now, can Steve Wilks do a better job of maybe mixing in stunts or showing blitz, even if he's not going to blitz and those types of things? Certainly. Of course he can. But they still have to find a way to get home. These guys are paid big money to do that. And if they don't get home in this week in particular, that's exactly what plays into Goff's hands. Goff is a statue, but if you don't get pressure on him, he will pick you apart. He's done it his whole career. If you get pressure on him and you move him off his spot, that's your chance to victory. That's how turnovers are forced with him. He gets very jittery in the pocket. He starts walking into sacks. They have to be able to get pressure and ultimately get home on him. And the thing about Goff is I believe he makes it easy to get home. If you get pressure on him, he just falls. He just gives up. Like, right. He's not even trying to move and move around and navigate the pocket and throw downfield. He'll just give up. So I think just getting the pressure this week is enough to actually get home, because he'll just fall right into sacks. So I agree with you on that.
And Wilks, I feel bad for him a little bit, because he was trying these things in the beginning of the season, and the team basically said, "Hey, that's not what we do. We rush 4, right?" And now they've been doing what Nick Bosa and those guys spoke about, wanting to just rush 4, but it hasn't been translating into sacks. So puts Wilks in a kind of an awkward position. Like, this is what you guys want to do. This is what we're doing. It's not working. So now maybe he needs to take that initiative and approach it with Kyle and say, "Look, guys, we're not getting home. We need to do other things, and at least like you said, run stunts, fake blitz, like do something different than what you've been doing, because it's not working."
Yeah, I would say the other person that needs to step up is Ambry Thomas. And man, what an up and down stint he's had with the 49ers. I don't want to blame him entirely for some of the things that happened this last week, and I think that there were some other blown coverage issues and what have you, but he was a big part of that. And at the very least, you cannot grab and get pass interferences and all these other things. You have to be better. You have to. There's a reason that you're in the game, and the reason is that Oliver wasn't very good. And so Demo was able to slide into the interior, which meant he came to the outside and has played very good for the most part. But there's always that question that was there. And I really saw it when I was in person watching them play Tampa this year in Santa Clara. All game long, he was getting cooked and cooked and cooked, and they just didn't look his way. They didn't attack him. And I'm thinking to myself, man, if you just throw to Evans over there and take that one-on-one matchup, you're probably going to be pretty damn successful. And they didn't do it. And a lot of teams haven't done it. Last week they did it. Last week they seeked him out and tried to pick on him. I gotta imagine that Detroit sees that and they're like, okay, we got some guys. We got a speedster and Jamison Williams that we can go to. We can go to Amon-Ra St. Brown, who makes everybody look silly. Either way, we can get some matchups that we really like here, and we can attack Ambry Thomas. So Ambry Thomas has to play better, be less handsy at the catch point, and avoid these penalties at the very, very least. He's always in position. That's always been his thing. He's always been in position. And a lot of times he either gets mossed or he gets a penalty. But it's like, man, you're right there. Just get your eyes on the ball and try to make a play on it. I don't understand why you have to immediately grab or just get mossed every time. This is going back to his rookie year, but he's always in place. So it's like there's just that tweak that he has to make mentally, and I think he can really overcome it, but they cannot have him being a liability because teams will pick on him, and I think the Lions definitely will pick on him.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. Another one I have would be Logan Ryan, if he's going to be starting. I'm not sure if they're going to roll with Logan Ryan again this week or if they're going to go back to Jair Brown. I'm not sure how they're going to approach it, but
I hope they go
Brown
back to Brown. Yeah.
Yeah, but it seems like Brown did a better job. I mean, Logan Ryan is a veteran. He has a Super Bowl, he's a Super Bowl champion. It just seems like he was just out of it. Like you could just tell he hasn't been playing football much at all. And he hasn't. He was literally on a cruise ship when the 49ers called him.
Right.
He just looks stiff and just not ready for the game right now. And maybe that game will help him get back in the groove in this following game. But I agree with you. I think I'd rather see Jair Brown out there.
Yeah, Rick, go ahead and shoot the question up. Go ahead and shoot it up. Listen, we've talked about it for all season long, man, and it's just, unfortunately, it's just not going to happen at this point. It's just not a good enough player. But man, McKivitz, dude, I don't think he needs to step it up necessarily because I don't think he has that gear in him. But the game plan needs to step it up and getting Kittle to help block a little bit more if that's what it takes. Something, at least get a bump and release, check and releases, those types of things, and get Kittle to get hands on, help, and then release out into patterns if you want him out in patterns. But they cannot allow him to go one-on-one over and over and over. That is a quick way to disaster, and I don't want to see it anymore. They just can't do it. On big third downs, they can't do it. They have to put hands on whoever it is that's over Colton McKivitz. Likely Hutchinson. It's going to be Hutchinson, which is scary as hell. So they've got to get hands on him. They have to, and they have to help him out. They can't give him these one-on-one matchups. He can't hold up against these elite pass rushers.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe you would know more. You got that Lions friend of yours coming on the show and that's going to be a great show, by the way. I'm looking forward to that. But I believe Hutchinson lines up on that side every time. Am I wrong, or does he switch sides?
I think he switches. I think I'd have to ask. I haven't watched a ton of Hutchinson, but I swear I've seen him lining up either way. I think they just try to get him good matchups.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely a good one. And like you said, it's really on Kyle at this point to make that happen. You can't ask McKivitz to be a better player at this point in his career, right? Like, so it's definitely on Kyle. This is a Kyle thing for sure.
Yeah, most definitely. All right, let's get to some of these super chats real quick. James checking in over on your channel says, if, and I mean if we beat the Lions, what a coincidence that the two AFC teams left are the teams that beat us in our last Super Bowl losses, and they both look ready to play. I tweeted about this. I was a little bit more bold in my tweet, and I said, it looks like no matter what, we're going to have a chance to get revenge. And people are like, we got to beat the Lions first. And I was trolling and said, who? It doesn't compute. We're going to the Super Bowl. So, but you're right. Yeah. If they make it past the Lions, they have a chance at redemption. And that's pretty damn cool. And both those teams are very, very good.
Okay. Yeah.
Alex AC from back home, AC from the 503 says Purdy needs to get Ayuk involved early. Go Seahawks. He's a Seahawks fan, but I agree. Yeah, I mean, Brandon Ayuk needs to be involved more. It really did seem like that game plan was supposed to revolve around Debo, and once Debo went out, things were a little bit shaky. But I think getting Ayuk involved early is, I mean, you see it as a Seahawks fan, absolutely, especially against that secondary. He should be able to do work. He should be able to do a lot of work.
Yeah,
and I want it. Yeah, go ahead.
I've talked to some people that said that Ayuk was visibly frustrated in that last game with the lack of targets. Yeah, even after the game.
For sure. I'm sure that he was. Rick asked if we would answer the question. He says, do you think the quarterback that we have right now is a good quarterback? You know my answer. We have a good quarterback. All he needs to do is settle down and play football. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know how you can't say he's not a good quarterback. Like if you first of all, if you're a starting level quarterback, you're one of 32 people in the world. It's pretty amazing in itself. But yeah, he's definitely a good quarterback. I think the only time I push back is when people are like, let's throw him in that elite era. Like he's elite now. Okay, all right, if that's what you want to do, but not me.